Michelle. I garden in a zone 7B in Atlanta, Georgia, where I also keep chickens for eggs, hence the name Gardens and Chickens. On social media, I share what I'm doing in my garden, what I'm doing with my chickens, and helpful tips, and my whole goal in sharing that is just to make gardening easier and more accessible so more and more people fall in love with this hobby. I've been sharing on social media for about 3 years, but I've been gardening for a lot longer than that. And 3 years ago, when I started sharing on social media, I would have never imagined that one day I'd be invited to tour Monrovia's nursery. But that's exactly what happened last week, and I'm so excited to share what I saw with you because this isn't a nursery that's open to the public. So I hopped into my car and drove the 4 hours down to Cairo, Georgia. Yes, it is pronounced Cairo, even though it's spelled Cairo because, you know, Georgia. The nursery is one of the oldest nurseries in the country, and this nursery is actively operating on 350 acres. That just blew my mind. It was huge. Every direction you looked, you saw plants as far as the eye could see. I imagine that this might be what heaven looks like, y'all. So in this video, I want to share my 3 top things that I learned while down there in Cairo, Georgia, visiting the Monrovia nurseries. These 3 things really helped put into perspective all the incredible work and thought that goes into getting your plants on the shelf. Also, at the end of the video, I got to go home with a little bit of goodies. So I want to share what I got, where it's going in my garden, and why I picked those. So first up, let's talk topiaries. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that swoons over topiaries when you go to the garden center. They are perfection. You look at them, you check the price, and you put them back. And honestly, I was the same way. I did not understand what all went into the cost of creating those topiaries. If you followed me on social media a few years back, I even did a tutorial on how to create your own. But let me tell you, my DIY tutorial was nothing like the work and craftsmanship that goes into the topiaries that you see in your garden centers. Monrovia isn't shaping their topiaries immediately before shipping them, and it's not really something that you could replicate at home unless you start from the very beginning with a baby shrub. These topiaries that we are looking at here, they are emerald colonnade holly topiaries. Side note, if you live in a zone 7 through 9, if you're in the southeast, sounds like these are the perfect shrub for us because they like the heat and they like the humidity, and that's what Georgia has to offer. The craftsmen that are working to shape the Monrovia topiaries are nothing short of incredible. The topiaries that you see in store are grown up over 4 years and have been cut over 10 times by hand. So when you're picking that up from the garden center, you are paying for 4 years of training to create that spiral topiary, not like Michelle's DIY garden tutorial from a few years back. The price tag by hours of work that went into training the shrub, you can see where the price comes from. The second thing that I took away from the tour was the focus on environmental impact Monrovia has. Here's the fun fact that absolutely floored me. In that 350 acres of growing space, Monrovia sprays 0 pesticides and uses 0 herbicides. And if you've gardened in Atlanta or in the southeast at all, you know that we are the mecca of diseases and bugs, man. Climate has its challenges, and that is why I am so impressed with how Monrovia is able to achieve this. The first way Monrovia is able to do that is something that all home gardeners should be doing, and one that I put into practice as well, and that is using mulch. Mulch is such an effective way from preventing weed seed access to the soil so that they cannot sprout. And that is what Monrovia is doing. They're using mulch in the cans to prevent weeds instead of spraying harmful herbicides that could leach into a water stream. Now, what Monrovia does to minimize pesticide use is a little out of reach for your average home gardener. This is something that I don't really use on my garden just due to the price tag. Hopefully one day, as more people are interested in gardening, interested in organic methods, maybe the demand will be there, their production is ramped up, and then the price drops on these things, but it is leveraging beneficial insects. If you have ever had a spider mite infestation, you know how awful they are and how hard they are to get rid of. I can't imagine trying to manage that across 350 acres. So what Monrovia is doing is leveraging hungry mites. They're leveraging this white insect tape that has mites inside that feed on spider mites in order to manage and control spider mite infestations. While Monrovia isn't using herbicides or pesticides, they do use fertilizers in their nursery. And one thing that really impressed me was the way that they are recapturing that water, cleaning that water, and ensuring that that water isn't going into downstream water systems. Nursery in Cairo, Georgia is sloped, and at the perimeter of the nursery and in different spots there are ponds and bogs that are there to catch the runoff from their operations and then clean the runoff through the different plants that they have planted there. They're constantly testing and ensuring that the water that is escaping from the nursery is clean so that once it hits the local water streams, they aren't causing further damage to the local ecosystem. And of course, they're recapturing that water for their own use to minimize drawing from the local waterways. I personally love my pollinators. I would hate to know that I'm supporting an operation that is causing harm to the environment, and so this is something that was really important to me and something that I thought was really incredible and wanted to make sure I shared with you. Lastly, if you are a nerd and love automation, they've got the coolest little robots in practice. There are robots that are helping to automate pruning. There are robots that are filling dirt in cans. There are robots that are topping with mulch. There are robots that are placing and spacing plants. If you think the nursery industry is some old school industry, at least at Monrovia, they are doing some really cool things in order to make sure that their craftsmen are able to work safely and work smartly. Now let me show you the goodies that I took home. First was the spiral topiary. I talked all about how impressed I was with the process and how it's been hand pruned for 4 years, at least 10 times. So I had to have one in my garden. I am going to be probably planting it near this bench. It's such a statement piece for right when you enter the garden. And I will share when I plant it and then how I'm going to be maintaining this beautiful form. Next up, I got 2 bandwidth maiden grasses. I love the 2 colors on these. They're absolutely gorgeous. They are a zone 5 through 9 and they stay about 2.5 feet tall and wide. Next up, I got this golden caryopteris. It's absolutely beautiful. It is going to have blue blooms, which will contrast beautifully with the golden foliage. This is a great one to add to your garden if you want to see bees. The bees love that blue color. What better contrast to yellow is there than purple? This Morello agastache will go right here. It's got pink blooms later on. What really drew me to it were these beautiful purple stems, and the new growth on the underside of the leaves are purple. That's just so stunning. Later on, they'll have pink blooms and the hummingbirds are going to love them. So this is a great one to add for pollinators and hummingbirds in your garden. So I love that I was able to share with you guys how Monrovia is growing all the many plants they do and all the really neat initiatives they're working on. Hope this was interesting for you. Thank you to Monrovia for inviting me. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you'll like and subscribe and follow for more. See you in the next video.